Actually, Tracy, when I experienced the film twice, it did not rub me the wrong way. Just the idea that, so he had two women presenting business opportunities to him. He had the one who really adorned herself, and then he had one who was, the head warrior. And he clearly respected Naniska's vision and perspective, right? And which is why she was knighted woman king. Which doesn't that suggest equal power?
That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering when I saw it. So that, and it didn't really explain that. So I was just wondering, like, okay, so now she's woman king. Are they equal? Or how does that work? Is she like Secretary of State?
Right.
As opposed to being the president? That's sort of how I was thinking about it, to make that little part of me feel like, okay, this is not, again, a situation where a woman has to get, she clearly earned that title, clearly. Yes. But is this, I just had to fight that a little bit in my mind. Like, here we are watching these wonderful warriors. We've watched them train. We've watched them basically, overthrow an entire army, and the leader of the army. So, okay. Yeah. But so I was just fighting that little part of me because we didn't go any further of, okay, what does it mean for her to be woman king as he is king of the nation? So what does that mean? I never got that. So I just let it kind of go out, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because I was thinking it.
So Libby, you want to respond? Because Libby posed in the chat. Was he afraid of her?
Go ahead. Talk about that, China, if you want to say something about it.
No, I was, now that you posed the question, Tracy, I'm just like, so what does her new position entail? What is her authority in particular? We know that she already had authority over the military unit, but what are her new responsibilities? Like, does he have to now confide with her? Do they make decisions together? But somebody always has to make the final decision, right? Even when people present, suggestions to you, there's always one person who makes the final decision. So that's a great question to pose. And yeah, Libya, what are your thoughts? Oh, she said,
it was unclear.
Yeah, it was unclear, and I call those holes in the script. I'm always looking for the holes in the script, because the holes in the script is when you as a character are researching who you are, and you're like, wait a minute, why do they say that? That's contradictory to that. It's contradictory to that. And one of the things that I do, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do remember, I think, China, you saw a couple of times, and you probably better at remembering this, but I remember there was a moment, a dialogue, and I want to see it again, because I understand what you're saying. I wasn't able to, I was so excited about seeing Black women.
Me too. That's why I saw it twice.
Completely like listen as much as I wanted to. And there were people with cameras on. So I was like, turn it off. I remember her saying something about restoration, that there was a time, which brings me back to what you were saying earlier, Tracy, about where did women not have the power? Where did the equality like shift? What was the cause of it? Because there was them talking about there was a power shift where women were allowed to be equal, and he was this king that now had been knighted, or made
inherited the crown.
Exactly. I don't even know the story, because I got to go back and listen to the history of it. I wasn't really paying attention as I wanted to, but he was like a lenient king, and even in his and they had him in purple, and that looked like the phi beta that the organization. He had on like fraternity wear. I don't know if you noticed that, but he had like an all white, which I thought was interesting. and he had on, I remember, oh, that's the beta, Phi Beta Kappa.
Phi Beta Sigma.
Phi Beta Sigma, the Sigmas. I was like, oh, he's a Sigma. And I remember when I was in school, Sigmas were always like the artists at FAMU. They were all, every school is different, but I was like, oh, he's kind of like the Sigma. He's not the Kappa. He's not the Alpha. I was looking at fraternity. I was like, oh, he's the Sigma. He's the one that's like, and the women really rule. He just has the face. That's why I asked that question, like, is he afraid of her? Like, is that what his characters, is he trying to protect his own kingdom because he has women all around him? There were not a lot of men. I mean, there were men, but the men were secondary in this. They were fighting. The men were fighting with the women, but the leader was the leaders were the women. The men were there. So I'm wondering, like that relationship between the two and the conversation, and like you said, China, the one who adorns herself, who even said, "Oh, she's out fighting. Oh, she's disgusting. Oh, she's nasty. Oh, she smells, but she's doing all the work. She's the mule of society." She's, even though she's getting the honor of people are bowing their heads, and they don't care about that when they're walking. They don't care. The one I had a crush on goes up to the little boy and goes, "Look up." And he looks up and he looks in her eyes. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Humor to it. I think that's why I was attracted, because she brought the humor to it.
She did.
See the beauty of these women, and they were so different, but they were all warriors, but they were also the virgin warriors. And then we find out that
now
well, exactly, but we don't know the other history. Like, we don't really know the truth.
But we know Viola's not a virgin.
But I wonder, Viola and her story, what were the other story when it came to men?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? So many of the new recruits and those who are not new, they were captives. So they weren't necessarily virgins either, my friend.
Exactly. They just were given that choice.
Given that title, like, even though it may or may not be true, they were saying, oh, they're virgin. That was a reputation that they had. Just like when they rose up out of the woods, out of the forest, and they saw them, they were confused, they were conflicted, because they were like, who is this? Those are women. Oh, it's these women. Right. Like, oh, it's just women. These women. And they went immediately, because they were chopping. And I did have a problem with the violence. I have to throw that out there. I had a little problem. It was like me, and I did love Braveheart. It was like Braveheart out in the woods.
I thought the violence wasn't nearly as bad as what we've seen, like in Braveheart, or even in the what's that series, the Game of Thrones. I mean,
I didn't watch that. It was too much. But I say it was too much because I was enjoying it. Because I was in.
Lord. You see this, Iman? You see this one right here? You see this one?
Are you recording this?
Yes, I am.
Use this against me. They're gonna be like, I love it when they chop their necks off.
I also want to talk about the journey and the evolution of Nawi, the young recruit. I loved her journey, because I love that the director Gina, she presented the foreshadow of her. She was rebellious. She was undisciplined, but she had an innate warriorism in her. And I love, and it was demonstrated for the men who tried to. The dude was like 60 years old, Iman. Okay, she was 19. He was cool with that. She was not cool with that. And she fought him, and he was beside himself. He couldn't believe it. So, of course, he was not trying to marry her. It was interesting. I don't know if Libya and Tracy caught it, but the mother, she didn't even flinch when she saw, because he smacked her in response to her pushing him down, and the mother didn't flinch. I think it's because it's so commonplace. How did you all feel about that?
I feel that I didn't see anything different, because even now,
Even
that's
now?
how that is how it is. I don't, I mean, not just in our community, but in
Oh, yeah.
the African community, it's very much like that, you know. They don't flinch. It's like, okay, he knows best. He's doing this, and you know,
Mm,
I'm not going to stop him. I won't say for everybody, but
right.
there are lots that just sit back and like, okay, he made that decision. I'm going to stand with him.
You know, I must
Me-
say, I'm sorry, I must say that, yes, that is commonplace here in America, all over the globe. And I'm, China's not made like that. I don't know which tribe I'm
Yeah,
from,
of course.
but I'm always interjecting. Just last year, I interjected, like, in a couple of years, I just was like, "Are you, sis, you okay? You okay? I'm not talking to you. Are you okay?" Like, and my heart is beating so rapidly. Trust me, I'm scared as hell. But I don't have it in me to not say anything. I just don't have it in me.
Right, exactly.
It hurts.
Exactly, especially now with
Yeah.
all of this Me Too and shaming and you know, where people against shaming and abuse and things like that. You can't just stand by. But it is still in it's still wrapped up in our culture. It's still part of the DNA. And you know, before you are Mrs. Whoever, you are this woman who still needs to protect other women and make sure other women are okay. But there's some people that are still not letting those two things be separate.
I think it's about protecting other men, actually. I don't even think it's about, I think women protect men.